George Harvey Strait was born on May 18, 1952 in Poteet, Texas, to John Byron Strait Sr. and Doris Cowser. He grew up in a nearby Parasail and Frio County, where his father was a junior high school mathematics teacher and the owner of a 2,000-acre cattle ranch outside of Big Wells, Texas. The family worked at the ranch on the weekends and in the summers. When George was in the 4th grade, his father and mother were divorced, and his mother moved away with his sister, Pincy. George and his brother, John Jr., or Buddy, were raised by their father. Strait began his musical interest while attending Parasail High School, where he played in a rock and roll garage band. The Beatles were popular when Strait was in high school. His musical preference soon turned to country, with singers Hank Thompson, Lefty Frizzle, Merle Haggard, George Jones, Bob Wills, Hank Williams, and Frank Sinatra influencing his style. Strait did not tune to the country radio often as a youth, usually listening to the news and the Farmer's Report. His introduction to country music came mostly by way of life performances, which, according to Strait, could be heard in every town in Texas. He eloped with his high school sweetheart, Norma. The couple initially married in Mexico on December 4th, 1971. That same year, he enlisted in the United States Army. While stationed at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii as a part of the 25th Infantry Division, Strait began performing with a U.S. Army-sponsored band, Rambling Country, which played off-base under the name Santee. On October 6, 1972, while still in Hawaii, George and Norma had their first child, Jennifer. After Strait was honorably discharged from the Army in 1975, he enrolled at Texas State University in San Marcos and graduated with a degree in agriculture. During his college years, he joined the country band Stony Ridge. While he continued to play with his band without any real connections to the music industry, Strait became friends with Irv Woolsey, who operated one of the bars in which the Ace in the Hole band played, and who had previously worked for the major label MCA Records. Woolsey convinced some of his Music Row connections to come to Texas and to listen to Strait and his band play. Impressed with the performance, but concerned that they couldn't market the western swing sound that the band featured, they left without a deal. After several unsuccessful trips to Nashville in search of a record deal in which Strait was turned down by every label in town, after considered giving up music altogether, he was offered a job designing cattle pens and decided to take it. He gave the band notice that he was leaving, but after a discussion with his wife, she convinced him to give music one more year. Not long afterward, MCA signed Strait to a recording contract in February 1981. The initial deal was for one song. If the single did well, the label would then consider doing an album. The Ace in the Hole band remained with Strait, performing as the backup and touring band for the new solo act. In the spring of 1981, Strait released his first single for MCA Records, entitled Unwound, which climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart that year, and was included on his debut album, Straight Country. The record featured 2 more singles, including Down and Out, a number 16 hit for Strait, and If You're Thinking You Want a Stranger, which reached number 3 only in 1982, sparking a string of top 10 hits that ran well into the 1990s. Straight Country was hailed by critics as a traditionalist breakthrough that broke the trend of pop-influenced country prevalent at the time. Strait recorded 17 subsequent number ones in the decade, including a string of 5 that lasted from 1983 to 84, from his next 2 albums, Right or Wrong. Strait and his family were struck with tragedy when his 13-year-old daughter, Jennifer, was killed in one car non-alcohol related accident. Strait finished the decade by winning the CMA Entertainer of the Year award in 1989. A year later, he won the award again. Strait began the decade with the release of his 10th studio album, Livin' It Up, which featured 2 #1 hits including Love Without End, Amen, his first multi-week hit, and I've Come to Expect It From You. Later in 1992, Strait played the main character in the movie Pure Country and released the film's soundtrack. It was his most successful studio album, producing such hits as Heartland, I Cross My Heart, and When Did You Stop Loving Me, and peaked at #1 and #6 respectively on the country and Billboard 200 album charts. During his period, Strait also released a 4-disc box set, Career Retrospective, Straight Out of the Box in 1995, which became the second best-selling box set ever with a shipment of 8 million in the United States. Strait completed the decade with the album Always Never the Same in 1999, which peaked at #2 on country charts and matched the crossover success of Pure Country by reaching #6 on the Billboard 200. The record produced the hits What Did You Say to That, Meanwhile, and the #1 Write This Down. Reviews of the album's material were generally moderate, but Entertainment Weekly observed that at this point in his career, Strait could record the most lightweight material and make it soar on the radio with his grace. All in all, Strait scored 17 #1 hits on the Billboard Country Airplay charts in the decade and carried the successes into the next century. Strait released a self-named album in 2000, which, despite a #1 and #7 showing on the country and Billboard 200 album charts, produced no #1 singles and was the first studio album of his career to not be certified as platinum. The singles Go On and If You Can Do Anything Else were released from the record, with both peaking in the top 5. In May 2001, The Roadless Traveled was released. Reviews for the album were most positive. Rolling Stone described it as sticking to the formula, but adds a few twists that make it superior to his last few releases. It featured vocal processing and was considered by some critics as an experimental album. In April 2009, George Strait was honored by the Academy of Country Music with the Artist of the Decade Award, which was presented by Strait by the previous ACM Artist of the Decade, Garth Brooks. In June of that year, he headlined the first event at the new Dallas Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Strait's single Living for the Night was released on May 28, 2009, and was written by Strait, his son Bubba, and Dean Dillon.